Hey friends! Welcome to Spirit Club, a podcast and community that is all about doing the inner work to live an aligned and, dare I say, happy life. I'm your host, spiritual guide and intuitive, Angel Kelly, and I'm here to share my teachings along with messages passed on to me from higher consciousness. I've also got incredible guests in store to help you go down all those spiritual rabbit holes. So let's go! Welcome to the club. Hello, Spirit Club. Welcome back. Thank you for joining for another episode. And today we have a new guest that I'm excited to introduce you all to because his energy, it feels both grounding and full of light. And I think you will all really love being in his energy. So I would love you all to meet Brett of the carnivore. What do you call yourself, Brett?
On Instagram, I am the thankful carnivore.medium.
The thankful carnivore. So Brett is a medium and a channel, and he's a channel to an extraterrestrial being who we will all meet and talk about today. But Brett's story is a really special one of how he's come to be a channel, but also all the changes and transformation that's taken place in his life before and during that process. So really excited to talk about that, Brett, today. And thank you for connecting with me and for connecting with this community.
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to share my experiences, and it's a crazy story in a lot of ways, but I'm happy to share it, and I really look forward to this conversation. I've been watching your content ever since you first appeared on the Spiritual Sisters podcast. Shout out to Gabby and Nicole. And this is just a continuation of conversations that are going to happen within this group of podcasters, etc., as time goes forward. And what a blessing it is to be a part of that.
Yes, I feel the same. Like the community feels, I don't know, it feels like family, it doesn't feel like awkward conversations or, even like you're meeting someone new. And I think that's really special. It's actually quite extraordinary. So Brett, I'm going to start with a couple of routine questions that I have for my guests. First one being, do you know your sun, moon, and rising in astrology?
My sun is Pisces. My rising sun is in Scorpio. And my moon is Libra.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Pisces doesn't surprise me at all. And knowing a little bit about your story, Scorpio rising also doesn't surprise me. Do you resonate with the astrology that you came into this life with?
I've been given a couple of really informative astrology readings, but I'm still a little bit skeptical because I see people constantly, weekly, especially at our church. Oh, such is retrograde. Oh my gosh, I can't wait for this week to be over, and I don't understand. As a carnivore, I wake up smiling every morning. I truly experience effortless daily happiness each and every day of my life, Angel, because I have no inflammation to speak of. My body's functioning as it was designed to function. And with that comes a quiet confidence, and you're open to joy every moment of every day. It never diminishes. It never strays. So I can't speak to astrology in a way that many can because I just don't experience it the way other people do. Yeah. I see the usefulness in it. If you've been raised with it, I can see how that would be very useful. But as somebody who was not raised with it, I'm not against it. I think it can be insightful at times, but I don't have bad days. I don't have down days. I don't have days that I'm at the end of it and I'm getting in bed thinking, boy, I'm glad that shit's over with. I just don't have that.
You're right, Brett. Sometimes we get a little dramatic about the astrology. That is true. Brett, tell me if you have one, what your morning routine looks like.
My morning routine is very consistent. Um, I'm most days through the week I'm up at 3:30 a.m. I also go to bed early, like at 9:30, and I get up at that hour so that I can, and then I eat my breakfast, and then I immediately go straight to meditation. And depending on the weather, my meditations in the morning, because we have a activated energy temple out in our yard, courtesy of the temple making documentary on Gaia, narrated by Freddie Silva.
Oh.
I highly encourage people to check that out. You can create, you don't require monolithic stones, you just require um, male stones and female stones for a mixed, balanced energy.
Mm.
And that's where I meditate primarily. We have created an indoor temple, which you can also do. I meditate in there a lot in the mornings as well if the weather's bad. But I don't get to meditate as long because my wife gets up. Our house is kind of like a bungalow style house, and the living room and kitchen are like right there as one room. So when my wife gets up to start cooking her breakfast in the morning, that's when I have to end those meditations. But it works for me.
Yeah.
I tried meditating right soon as I got up, but all of that I accomplished then was falling back asleep in a sitting up position, and that's not a good idea indefinitely. So I have my breakfast, I meditate, and then I check my social media to see if there's anybody in need of Reiki energy. I am a Reiki 3 practitioner. I don't call myself a master because I don't feel like I'll ever be a master of anything, but I'm always willing to learn whatever it is I need to learn to become better at what I know and to utilize it more appropriately. Um, and then I go about my day. I spend a lot of time contemplating asking Orna questions. I get downloads from her almost daily, which have been very, very wonderful. Um, that's basically my morning routine. I spend the time in meditation after I eat, and then I listen to what Orna has to say for the day.
Okay. I have two follow-up questions to your morning routine. And the first one is, where in the world are you?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay.
We
Because I
live.
was like, he has an outdoor temple, which means he must be somewhere warm where he can go outdoors every day. Okay. Um,
Yeah, Jacksonville's northeast Florida. Um, it does get really hot here, but it's nothing like further south in the state. And like the hurricane that went through, we were blessed not to have any impact from that. And I would encourage people to send positive energy and to pray for those who went through that nightmare. And of course, for the folks in Tennessee, Eastern Carolina, Georgia, and northwestern South Carolina that got hammered with Helene, it's pretty horrible up there. And I don't know why I brought all that up, but I did. Probably because it's.
I'm going to take advantage of you having brought that up because I feel like everyone listening, this is a great time to, not everybody makes time for prayer. So if we all just want to take a minute and send literally light and loving energy to all those impacted by the hurricane. If you want to think of someone specific, if you don't, just send light, watching that light wash over the region. Okay. Thank you, Brett. I feel like you gave us that opportunity for like a larger group to pray over what's gone on there. And
You're very welcome.
okay.
All righty.
Thank you. I will keep moving. Okay, so this podcast, Brett, I know you've listened, is really about working on ourselves. So, would love to hear any influential teachers, authors, coaches, mentors that you've had in your own personal and spiritual development.
As far as books and things of that nature, I highly recommend Dr. Michael Newman's books, The Destiny of Souls, The Journey of Souls, and Memories of the Afterlife. Um, that had an enormous impact upon me. And I was already a believer in reincarnation thanks to a QHHT session where I got to experience 3 past lives. But reading the book, and it put details together in a way that I needed to connect all the dots and make the equations work. And what a transformative experience that has been, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure. The Law of One by Ra, I highly recommend that for all spiritual people. And this book here, okay, now I can see my video. Great. It's called At the Feet of the Master. And it's a little book by a young Indian boy that was 14 when he wrote it. And it is one of the most beautiful spiritual things I've ever read in my life. So I
Wow.
highly recommend. It's just a little short thing, but and I'm on my second read through, and I'm already seeing that each time you read it through, you're going to get something new out of it, something helpful, something pertinent to what's going on in your life at any given moment. I highly recommend this. It's already had a big impact on me in the few weeks I've had it. And then Allison DuBois was one of the first mediums that I ever really latched onto to learn from. For a few months, I was a student at her dead university, and I learned so very much. She would talk to her students once every other month on Zoom, and it was like a PhD in common sense mediumship. And it was very deep, but it was very, very commonsensical. It wasn't so far, it wasn't vibrating so high that you couldn't grasp what was being said.
I see. I see.
And I learned a great deal about that. And of course, I have learned more than anything from a 10,000-year-old light energy being named Orna, who's of Arcturian descent, who's been with me. We connected August 4th of 2023, and I'll get into more of how that turned into be such an incredibly life-changing event. But that's who I get most of my inspiration, and when I need to learn new information, she's the one who brings it to me, and she's always good about bringing it to me exactly when I need to know it.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert, everyone. We'll be talking lots about Orna. That's a big part of what we're here to talk about today.
And this is not what she looks like. This is what my wife imagined she looks like. My wife did the artwork for that.
She did the artwork herself? Oh
Yes, she
my God.
did.
Wow.
Yes,
Talented.
she
Beautiful.
she's a professional graphic artist, and she's just very, very talented and very gifted in the I do well to write my name. I have I am a songwriter and a musician, etc. But when it comes to drawing and trying to create beauty that way, I no, I was, I'm in a deficit for that.
Mm-hmm. We can't have all of the talents.
Can't be good at everything, no, but we can
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
try.
Okay, thank you. Those are some, I mean, Law of One is something I've been called to read for years, and I have a feeling that I need to like create an opening or space in life, and it's going to come in. And so it feels like a 2025 thing for me. Um, but I can't wait.
Hi, hello again. If you can, with the Book of Raw, I didn't read it. I listened to it on an audio
Okay.
book, and I'm really glad I did because reading it, I probably would have gotten bored. But listening to it, oh my gosh, That's when I learned a lot about the reality of Source itself, is through that book. That Source is truly the source of all love, light, and energy in the entire universe. Really, really opened my eyes and opened my heart to what I should be thinking and who I should be honoring and how I should be honoring them, etc.
Right. I can't wait. Yeah. And I think with channeled texts in general, and yours included, there's there's a frequency, there's the words and there's listening to them or reading them, but then there's just like the frequency of what they're saying. And like whether or not you're taking that in consciously or not doesn't even matter because you're connecting to the frequency. So I love channel texts for that, but they are to me, I really hold them sacred, and I have like a reverence for them in that, like, I don't I give them my time. Like I've given A Course in Miracles, for example, 3 years of my life daily because it is so impactful. And I have a feeling Law of One is going to be something similar. So
it's going to open your eyes to things you never thought you would hear. I'm just telling you that the things you're going to learn about planet Earth from listening to that will truly, truly change how you view things in a beautiful way.
Okay, well, we'll chat about it then, Brett. Okay, my next question for you, because I love to, sometimes we just need to speak things to put them into works. So what are you currently letting go of?
I watched your podcast on this episode, and it was so apropos. I'm letting go of old anger and old resentments every time they rear their ugly head out of the memory bank. Every time I think I've gotten rid of all of them, I'm find out I'm wrong. Something else shows up to say, "Hey, you remember when someone did this and you never got satisfaction?" Da, 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 da. I'm like, I gotta get rid of all that. I gotta get rid of all of it, and I'm succeeding. I'm not dwelling on things like I used to. I mean, for many years I was very angry every day of my life, and I since came to realize after I started this spiritual journey that every good thing in my life I had ever destroyed, I had done with anger. And so then I asked Source to please limit my ability to create anger and replace that with a greater sense of mindfulness and peacefulness. And that has truly been a good thing for me to have done because it's made an enormous difference in my life.
I feel
I used to be so quick on the trigger. I could go from 0 to 1,000 on the angry scale in 2 seconds or less at one time. And now getting genuinely angry, I just really doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I mean, I can still get annoyed, but that's not anger.
Yeah, we all get irritated. Yeah, when I was reading your book, it sort of alluded to this like past version of you that was angry a lot, and I was like, oh, interesting, because I don't feel it in your energy at all. So that obviously illuminates and hints to me at like how this has transformed you over time, and
I can't
wait to get into
it.
Either. Okay, one last question. So that's what we're letting go of. What are you calling in?
I crave source energy. It's just, I've been told by a lady who reads auras very, very well. She said, "Brett, you're carrying around more energy than you should." But I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I love it. And of course, unconditional love there is nothing greater in existence, in my opinion, than unconditional love. And so I crave that from Source every day as well, because without that love, I wouldn't be worth a nickel at much of anything. And I don't think that's something you can ever absorb too much of, is the unconditional love of Source.
Right. And it's almost like remembering. It's like you are all of that and you always have been. So what we're really asking for is like remembering. Can I remember again? Can I remember more? Can I connect to that who and what I am again?
Mm-hmm. I
Beautiful. Well,
agree. I agree.
I think that's pretty much, I mean, as far as what somebody could be calling in, that's pretty much everything. Like that's really all we need, what you just said
Mm-hmm.
there. So thank you for that, Brett.
You're very welcome.
Okay, let's get into your story. So I know who you are and the work that you're doing, but let's share with the community um, how you, okay, let's see, how you got into channeling, um, and maybe the events that were leading up to that. Let's start there.
Okay, well, to do that and make it make sense, I need to go back to early 2023. My wife and I had been practicing Catholics. I was a Catholic convert. I was raised Protestant, converted to Catholicism in 2006, and really worked hard at making that work as I understood it at the time. And then my wife and I came across this documentary on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse, narrated by a gentleman named Graham Hancock. And we got interested into that and we loved it. It was just an amazing show. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And it made us really curious because we were seeing these megalithic sites, thousands and thousands of years old, and they were out, many thousands of years before the Bible was even written. And then we come to find out through my research, I learned that maybe we weren't created the way we were raised up to believe as a species. And that the deeper I went down the rabbit hole, the more I looked at my wife one day in April of 2023 and said, I don't think I can go to Mass anymore because I would be lying. I can't. And I always had the question, okay, Adam and Eve got together, they made Cain and Abel. Cain gets jealous of Abel and kills him. God kicks Cain out of the garden. What's the first thing Cain does? Now, there's only supposed to be 4 people on the planet, and Cain killed one of them. What's the first thing Cain does when he's kicked out of the Garden of Eden? He gets a wife. Where did she come from? Those are the kinds of questions that I always say to Catholicism. Have faith. It's a mystery. We're not meant to understand. I don't buy that for a minute. And I'm not trying to crap on Catholicism. It doesn't satisfy my need to know truth. Mm-hmm. And then we go to this, I start doing a search. We live in the Jacksonville area, and there's a gazillion churches. But I'm looking for a metaphysical church. And this one name kept popping up. And the name was so out there, I was like, no, that can't be. No. But ultimately, it was called the Cosmic Church of Truth.
Okay.
And my wife and I looked at their Facebook page, their web page, and we talked about it. And we said, well, it can't hurt to go once. So we went the following Sunday. 3 steps inside the door, a lady yells, "Oh, look, new energy," and comes up and gives me a big hug. Didn't know her from Adam. She didn't know me from Adam. And I just felt at home. And my wife did as well. My wife's not the extrovert I am. She's very introverted, and she doesn't like trying going to new places and meeting new people necessarily like I do. But even she felt at home. Mm. And they had a class that they offer every Friday night, still offer it. It's a mediumship circle class. And we were drawn to that like immediately. And we started attending. And I went into it with the attitude, be patient. You don't know anything. It's going to take you weeks before you see, feel, or hear something. Just be patient. Well, a month into it, my wife's seeing and hearing stuff all over the place. And I'm not hearing anything. And I'm like, all right, I'd never meditated before in my life, not knowingly.
Right.
Later, I found out I had been doing meditations, a lot of walking meditations over the years. Didn't realize it. But I started making myself sit down for meditation. I started with guided meditations, went on YouTube, got 5-minute meditations, and then I got to where I could do 8 minutes, and I got 15, 20, and then I started learning, the names of my guardian angel, my guides, and all these kinds of things started coming up. And I realized my approach to that class needed to be more reverent, and that for me, I needed to be in a near state of meditation before I was ever going to hear anything. And so I made up my mind the night of August 4th, 2023, that I was going to treat that class as just another meditation. And oh my gosh, 10, 15 minutes into it, Angel, my eyes are closed. I'm still hearing everybody giving messages of what they're seeing, etc., around me. And suddenly, in the right side of my mind's eye, there's a golden ball of energy. And it was beautiful. And I remember thinking, wow, that's me. I know that's me. That's so cool. I'm finally seeing something. All right, it's working. And then a few moments later, a blue ball of energy appears on the left side of my mind's eye. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not me. What's going on here? And the teacher had always told us, if you see something, feel something, or hear something that you don't understand, that makes you uncomfortable, whatever, bring it to the group. And so I brought it to the group, and all the teacher had to say after I finished was, sounds like you might be doing some channeling. I'm like, huh? Me? Now, I was familiar with channelers because we had a Gaia subscription by this point. And I'd already watched everything Sheila Gillette had done with Gaia and everything Mr. Anka, who channels Bashar, has done, and other channelers. I found it very fascinating. But was it something that I ever thought I'd be doing? Are you serious? With my history? Folks don't know it, probably. I'll share it now. I suffered from chronic mental illness for 43 years of my life. Major depression with psychotic features, chronic anxiety that I used to hold on to a pillow in the middle of the bed thinking, if I just had a heart attack, this would be over. Chronic insomnia, which made everything every day that much more difficult. And I eliminated it with the carnivore lifestyle. But I'm thinking, why would some being want to use me as their mouthpiece? I'm damaged goods. Seriously.
Oh.
A few minutes go by, and an extraordinarily talented young man named Drew comes to me and says, Brett, on your left is an extraterrestrial with sapphire colored eyes. And they want you to know that if you're willing, you can make a connection with them. And Angel, for a second, I thought my intuition was going to jump out on the floor, turn around and look at me and start yelling, do it. Say yes. Say yes. Yes. Because every part of my being was going, say yes. And so I did say yes. And that was how I connected with Orna. Like I said, she's of Arcturian descent. And on the way home after that class, it was crazy because I'm thinking, I didn't plan for this. I planned, my wife and I came to the class. I expected my wife and I would be the ones going home, but it was the wife and I plus Orna going home. And my second thought was, how do I convince my wife I haven't lost my mind again?
Right. Yeah.
And that's how I connected with Orna. And that's when everything just changed so drastically for the better. Things were good before then, but spiritually, things just exploded with positivity and information from her. Uh, that happened on a Friday. Monday morning, on Mondays, I work at the same print shop my wife does. I work there one day a week. I do the nerdiest, dirtiest, nastiest job they have, and that's how we make the car payment. I'm glad to have that job. I've had that job longer than I've had any other job in my life. But Orna tells me as we're going out the door, I absolutely must speak to your wife on your way to work. Huh? Why? We hadn't talked about channeling and there was no directions. This is how you do it. This is just, you're going to talk to your wife. You're going to help me talk to your wife. And so we're going to work. And I'm like, honey, Orna wants to speak with you. And she's like, while I'm driving? Yeah, she wants to speak while you're driving. And suddenly my vision bifurcated. In the top left-hand corner of my mind's eye, I could see my wife looking right at her. Mm-hmm. But in the bottom right-hand corner of my mind's eye, I could see my right foot up on the dashboard. And then Orna starts talking, and it sounds like it's 150, 200 yards away, but I could barely make out what she was saying. And basically what she told my wife was, you don't have to be concerned. There's nothing to be afraid of. I'm not going to allow Brett to attempt something that's going to harm him. He's going to make mistakes, but he'll never make the same mistake twice. And I'm never going to allow anything to negatively impact your marriage. So this is a very valid mission. And please just trust that he's not lost his mind again. And suddenly my vision.
And how did your wife feel?
Well, I asked her, I said, how was that for you? She said, that was very strange. And I'm like, you should have seen it from where I was sitting, dear. But she accepted it. And the 25th of August of this year, I brought Orna to the congregation at the church for the first time. And my wife explained her thought process during that time was, well, either Brett's become the greatest con man in human history, or he really has gone crazy again. It's just a different kind of crazy than he was before, or he's telling the truth. And she decided to go with he's telling the truth. Thankfully. And ever since then, well, that was the weekend of August 4th. And Orna began teaching me through downloads, things that she knew I needed to learn. Now, that happened in August. Keep in mind, I never meditated knowingly till June of 2023. Orna shows up August 4th.
Right.
I'm not going to go into all the details, but the Cosmic Church of Truth has a fundraiser the second Saturday of every month they call the Psychic Fair, where there's readers and then there's Reiki healers. And beginning in November of 2023, I did my very first Psychic Fair as a reader.
Congratulations. That's swift.
Thank you. That's insanely swift. Just ridiculous. That is, it takes most people years to be able to do that. But it was interesting. My wife I did coaching with the carnivore lifestyle for better part of 5 years. And I didn't realize, I thought the reason my head felt the way it does during a coaching session was because I was concentrating. What I now know is my head was filling up with energy. And I was basically doing readings.
I was going to say, you're like channeling. You just, just didn't know it.
Exactly. Had no idea. And so doing readings was like something I had been doing forever. And at that time I was in a band. and play guitar and sing. And I realized that after that first psychic fair, I'm going to end up having to stop performing live so that I can focus full time on this. Because doing readings was just the most beautiful, satisfying thing I had ever done in my life up to that point. And I mean, I've loved performing. I still love performing, but it's not as satisfying as seeing somebody sit down in front of me. They're upset. Something's not going right in their life, and being able to give them the information they needed to hear for their benefit, not for mine, for their benefit, for their well-being, for their highest good. And it just doesn't get better than that. The only thing that I can say is slightly better than that is the feeling I have after I channel Orna. Because while I'm channeling Orna, I don't hear, I may pick up a word or two once, but I don't really hear what she says. Which the first time I was interviewed, that was fun. coming out of the trance, and what did she? Everybody's smiling, but I'm like, what did she say? Somebody tell me what she said.
Wild.
I that's how I got to the place that I'm at today. And you know, I since that first November, there's only been 1 month, January of this year, that I did wasn't because they tried to do a rotation so that everybody would get a chance to read. But I've been doing the readings every month with the exception of January, the whole year. In fact, tomorrow, the psychic fair, and I'll be there as a reader.
Amazing.
And if they need somebody for healing, I'll be there to do that too.
Amazing.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I mean, I love the arc of your story, and you know, I can sense like before, you know, before you changed churches and before these things started happening, I get the sense is somewhere down that road is when you focused on your physical health through adapting the carnivore diet and lifestyle. And I get the feeling like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, growing up, probably Orna was always there with you, but there was in like so much inflammation and so much going on in your physical body that like perhaps it came off as mental health issues when in fact it was like you battling through the fog of connecting to Orna and not really knowing it. Is that possible?
It's possible that was the case, but I can tell you this with certainty. Orna first showed up when I was 7, playing out in the backyard. This is back in West Virginia where I grew up. And suddenly this circle of sparkling lights appears, and I can hear this tingling sound. In my head, I didn't know it at the time. I'm only 7, but I know now my head filled up with energy. And I remember looking at that thinking, that's interesting. I wasn't afraid. I was curious, but I also instinctively knew, and rightly so, that I couldn't tell my mom and dad about it.
Right.
Because I would be punished for carrying tales from my father. Right. He would, Mom might let it go as, oh, he's just being a kid, you know, and kids imagine this and imagine that. Well, this wasn't imagined, this was real. And she showed up every 2 or 3 years, just kind of like, hey, I'm here. And then as I got older and my symptoms started when I was around 15, from then until I got well via the carnivore lifestyle, you know, the next 50 years, basically, I was closed off. It wasn't, you know, she could have shown up this far from my face and I wouldn't have seen her to recognize her presence because I was so discombobulated. I was very, very ill, and severe inflammation in my brain, et cetera. It just made all that impossible. But yeah, I could see if I had not been ill, although I come to find out that was a ancestral illness. I found out after I became well, and in a meditation, my grandmother on my father's side, she died when my dad was 12, so I never got to meet her in person. But in spirit, she came to me uh, several months ago to say, I'm very proud of you because you ended the cycle. I'm the first one out of that line that didn't stay crazy, didn't die crazy, that I achieved wellness. And boy, that was very cool to learn that. That was a beautiful thing. And gosh, I'm a curious person by nature. My human design is 5'1". I'm a I've got it over here.
Heretic.
Yeah, I'm a heretical investigator.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm always curious. If you tell me, well, this is the way it has to be, I need you to either prove it to me, or I need to learn the hard way. I'm like the baby. I know not to touch the stove because I had to touch it to find out. Yeah, that'll hurt you. But these other things, I need to experience it to know for sure.
Right. Yeah.
And then once I have that experience, then I start thinking, how can I make that a more positive experience? There's got to be a way. So that's how my mind works.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the muscle of discernment, right? Like sometimes we have to like actually experience things to then know how to practice discernment ourselves in lives, because we can't just take every information we receive as fact or truth, right?
Amen. Well said. Well said.
Okay. So Orna, what types of messages is Orna generally sharing with you or having you learn?
Well, it doesn't follow a linear path.
Right. Okay.
It's what situations are going on in my life or mine and my wife's life together that's uh, maybe proving to be somewhat of a roadblock to growth.
Right.
For instance, I had somebody. I got to be real careful here because I don't want to get sued for telling the truth. Somebody did something really awful to me a few months ago.
Okay.
And there was betrayal and a lot of different ugly things. And I knew immediately, I remember being in meditation and just, I'm not getting up from here until I've resolved this kind of thing. And that was my attitude for like a week of doing hour plus meditations every day because I knew I didn't want, yes, I had justification for being angry, but I didn't want it. I didn't want the anger in my being. I didn't want to run the risk of going back to how I was through anger because that's always a possibility for me. And I'm all happy to forgive. The forgiveness part was the easiest thing of it. But then it's like, then the questions that will never be answered. Why would you do this? What did you think you're going to accomplish? How do you think this enhances your spiritual existence? Those kind of questions. I'm like, those are not my questions to answer. Those belong to that other person. I can't do that. Get away from me. I don't want it. Take it away. And I had to be the one to get rid of it. And that was when I finally became close to my higher self. Because up to that point, higher self wasn't the person I went to talk to about a lot of things that I should have. And I was unaware that my higher self was the one that could get rid of a lot of that crap.
Yeah.
Now me and my higher self, we're like good buddies. And when I'm out meditating in the temple in the morning and I have this list of people that I need to send energy to, and so my higher self helps me send that energy to whoever needs it. Now, it's not Reiki energy. That's just straight temple energy. For the Reiki energy, my guardian angel and 12 of her friends send it for me.
Bless.
Oh, beyond words. So fortunate. I've been approached by different, I'm not going to mention names because I don't want people to think I'm name dropping, because I'm not. I'm still astounded. There are archangels who have come to me and said, if you are ever in need, don't hesitate to call.
Yeah.
And what am I to go garner that much attention? And the reason why I got that attention is because of Orna. Orna's on a mission from Source. Orna's here to do at Source's bidding. And all of this is by design from Source. And she's here to assist with the ascendancy of the planet.
And I think, Brett, essentially, like, all higher guidance is available to all of us. We are all a fragment of Source. But the bigger mission you have, or the more light that you need to put out in the world, perhaps you might need bigger help, and you might be connecting to higher forms of consciousness. But okay, so Orna's sharings have really obviously helped you work through things in your personal life. They've clearly raised your vibration. I mean, I only know this vibration of you, Brett, but I can feel that it's like it's raised and it's holding, where I'll take myself for example. Like, I can raise my vibration and I spend a lot of time working on that, but then I go to my 9 to 5 and I kind of go through this like up
Mm-hmm.
and down, and I can feel yours like up and
Mm-hmm.
held. And I'm sure channeling daily is a big reason why you're able to maintain that vibration. Um, so you have graciously offered to channel Orna a little bit on this podcast. Are you and Orna still open to that option?
100%.
Okay. I don't know how it works, so
I basically have to just take a deep breath, bow my head, and ask her to come forward and get out of the way. And then I
and
go
then
to the back, and then she'll introduce herself and say something polite, and you can start asking questions at will.
okay. So I ask questions.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
got it.
All right, you ready?
All right,
Let's get her out.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Let's get her out here. Greetings. I am Orna. It's a pleasure to be in your energy field, Angel. I understand you have some questions for me, and I'm happy to hear them and happy to answer.
Thank you, Orna. Thank you so much for joining, and I can feel the shift in the energy. Oh, it's a little emotional for me, so forgive me for maybe not being as clear as I usually am. Um, I guess, Orna, are there any messages? Is there any message that you'd like to share with those who are listening in on today's episode?
I wish for everyone who hears or views this particular discussion to focus on the power of love. Love is truly a beautiful gift from Source that is the solution to all of human life's difficulties, trials, tribulations. It is a solution to figuring out how to step around the obstacles that life sometimes put in a human's way. Love is truly the tool to use when you are in a place of doubt. Ask yourself always, when presented with a troubling issue, what would love do in this situation? How may I utilize love to resolve this disagreement, this distortion? How may I use love to better my family, to strengthen my community, to assist the collective consciousness of humanity? Love is truly not just the universal tool, but it is the ultimate answer to every question. Love should be your guide always. That is my message for all who are hearing and listening and watching on this particular day and every day. Hope that answer was sufficient. Do you have other questions?
No, it was perfect. I something that you said that really stood out was, what would love do? Because I think I could hear the question of the community of, how do I use love? How? And I feel like that question, asking ourselves, what would love do? What would love do? Is really a sort of practical way to apply that teaching. So I thank you for that, Orna.
You are very welcome.
And I think the other question I would have, that I feel this community is often asking, is, I know many of them feel stuck in some part of their lives, in their lives as a whole. There's this, I'm trying to do this, but it's not working feeling. And I wonder if you have any advice for that.
It's an excellent question. My advice to people who are feeling stuck is to go to into meditation and to speak to their higher self and ask their higher self, what is it that my soul needs right now that it's not receiving? What do I need to do for my soul's benefit? Not my personal, in this incarnation's benefit, but for my soul. And allow that answer to come to you. Many times, humans will desire to learn a thing that they already know. They try to force it. And you cannot force love. You cannot force kindness, gratitude. You cannot force a spiritual thought into existence that will serve your highest possible good. Let the universe come to you and bring you the solution to your stuckness. And be assured that part of that solution will focus around the use of love. Do you love yourself? Which I find in Western societies on planet Earth to be a problem for many human beings, to learn to love themselves. They've been manipulated into believing loving yourself is an act of selfishness, when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And when you start loving yourself as you're designed to do, the universe opens many doors that had previously been closed. And these doors open you to the information that you need to understand how to utilize love, how to use love to eliminate your feeling of being stuck, of walking in place continuously. Trust what the universe brings to you in meditation and understand that the foundation of this information will always be love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Use that love for your benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have another question?
Thank you, Orna. I think my last question is going to be a bit more selfish. And that is just, I think that you are here connecting with me as well as the podcast. So if you have any direct messages for me, Orna, I would love to hear it.
Continue following your life's purpose. Your podcast is a beautiful step in the right direction. The information you are sharing is pristine and energetically beautiful and very, very helpful to those who listen, who want to grow, who desire and feel that need to learn what you can share from your life experience, from your spiritual journeys to benefit others. Continue with your focus being on teaching and being in service to others. You are performing great work on a daily basis. And when you're at that job that you can yo-yo your energy with and your vibration, focus on how to use love at your job for yourself first, and then how to be an example for others to follow without opening your mouth. Be that shining light that cannot be ignored. You are a beautiful soul sharing beautiful information and beautiful energy with your listeners and your viewers. Continue onward. Never doubt yourself, for you are always on target with your work. Cry tears of joy and let that joy fill your entire being, for you truly are a God-made creature set here to do God's work, to be that light that people need to find. That is my message for you in its entirety.
Thank you so much, Orna. It's really made me feel seen and in alignment with what I'm here to do. So thank you so much for that validation, and thank you for blessing Brett's life and having brought him to me into this community, because I think he himself, with or without your connection, Orna, is also a beautiful gift to the world.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure Brett will be very pleased when he watches this and hears this. Be at peace always. I thank you for this opportunity to speak with you, and I look forward to future conversations as time and life allow. Thank you, and fare thee well.
Blessed be, Orna. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, Brett.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Got emotional, did you?
Yeah, I did get emotional.
Well,
which is,
it's a beautiful thing.
I love when when messages are so touching, and I hope, and I could really feel Orna's vibration, and I could really feel the blue, as you had mentioned. And yeah, I hope those who are meant to connect to her frequency will listen to this episode, and that's how it goes. That's the beauty of this.
I agree completely. And she, you know, you're just starting out with your podcast, and the viewer numbers will go up over time as long as you continue to fulfill your life's purpose. Orna just wants every set of ears and every set of eyes to come to understand the power of love, the real power of love, not romantic love, not a God, unconditional love from the creator of all things. And
Yes.
that
Yes.
that is the ultimate answer to every situation.
Yeah, I know. Like as she was speaking, I was like, right, yes, right, right. Okay, Brett. Well, I'm going to wrap us up here. Thank you so much for sharing yourself, your story, your energy, and Orna with us. Before we wrap up, I would so so that everyone knows, Brett has written a book of these sessions with Orna. And how may people find your book, Brett?
It's
Beautiful.
for sale. Thank you very much. It's for sale at Amazon,
Okay.
and just type in the words of Orna. There's only one Orna that I'm aware of, and there's only one book called The Words of Orna, and you'll get this image will come up, and you can see we've made a lot of sales. We haven't gotten a lot of reviews yet, but we are selling books, and I'm just grateful for the message to be received in this manner. We did the book because in this day and age, if you're a channeler and you want people to actually take you seriously, you need to have a book.
Oh, interesting. Hmm.
And well, if you watch the bigger podcasts and the Gaia channel, for instance, you will see that every guest that's on there has a book to talk about.
Yeah, but I also think that like the lessons that you're getting from Orna, like of course you want to record them because then they are shared with a larger audience. So yeah, so I'm happy for you guys that you have published said book. We will put the link to it, The Words of Orna, in the podcast show notes, and you can follow Brett at the Thankful Carnivore. Do I have it right? Thankful Carnivore.
Thankfulcarnivore.medium.
Dot
It's
media.
thankful.carnivore.medium.
Okay. We will put it in the
Gotta
show
get the
notes so
dot.
it makes it easy. Yeah. And Brett, I had so many other questions, but those friggin' time constraints in life, I hope the next time we get to chat, we'll dive a little bit more into the carnivore diet. I think it's clearly made a major impact on your life. And my partner's sort of exploring that diet himself right now. So I'm sure by just looking at the YouTube that he's going to be influenced by the impact that it's had on your life.
You can tell him he can see. I've done numerous carnivore interviews. Just type in Brett Lloyd Carnivore. And if he has any questions, you have my email address. Just tell him to send me an email and I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brett.
You're very welcome. This has been a joy. Even with the technical glitches and whatnot, your energy is beautiful. It's pristine. And you just keep doing what you're doing because you're doing great work.
Thank you. I respect
You
that.
really are.
I thank you so much. And thank you, Orna. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. That's it for today. That's a powerful episode. So I hope you all enjoy. And until next time, bye.
Bye.